Welcome back, guys, for another video. So we're continuing on, coming really to the final section now. So remember that I mentioned before, you can sort of see that the structure of the novel has a three-part kind of structure, and it's roughly, if you think of the first section, you've got the childhood focus, which obviously is going to connect to the building novel. And we saw also that the other primary genre, other than the building novel, was the Southern Gothic, was very strong in the childhood sections. Which makes sense, right? Ghost stories and scary Gothic kind of things fit well with the, childhood section. The middle section is the courtroom drama. And we see there the focus is more on Atticus and Tom. But there is, of course, the kids are still developing there as well. Now, we've gone through the courthouse drama now, and we're going to see in the third section, there's a return to plus a resolution of Gothic and the building novel. So remember, this was all building, Scout, and Jem as well, but mainly Scout because she's the narrator. They're moving from innocence to experience. And the Gothic element is going to be connected to their maturity as well. Okay, so we're going to see that coming out. Chapter 26 is kind of like an in-between chapter, but we're going to see a couple quick things in this chapter and then move into chapter 27. So notice school begins again. School started, and so did our daily trips past the Radley place. So notice the return here. They used to always walk by the Radley's place, play at the Radley place, and, now they got to start doing that again. However, they're doing this now after much time has passed. They're growing up. Jem was in the 7th grade and went to high school beyond the grammar school building. I was now in the 3rd grade, and our routines were so different, I only walked to school with Jem in the mornings and saw him at meal times. He went out for football, but was too slender and too young yet to do anything but carry the team water buckets. This he did with enthusiasm. Most afternoons, he was seldom home before dark. The Radley place had ceased to terrify me. Notice she's not afraid anymore. But it was no less gloomy, no less chilly under its great oaks, and no less uninviting. Mr. Nathan Radley could still be seen on a clear day walking to and from town. We knew Boo was there for the same old reason. Nobody'd seen him carried out yet. I sometimes felt a twinge of remorse. So she's feeling a bit bad when passing by the old place at ever having taken part in what must have been sheer torment to Arthur Radley. What reasonable recluse wants children peeping through his shutters, delivering greetings on the end of a fishing pole, wandering in his collards at night? And yet I remembered 2 Indian head pennies, chewing gum, soap dolls, a rusty medal, a broken watch and chain. There it is, all the gifts that Boo Radley had given them. Okay. He gave them gifts. He gave Scout the blanket on the night of the fire, right? He fixed Jem's pants. And so you ought to be thinking, what kind of symbol is he? What's the symbolism here? Well, here's a Mockingbird number 2. Boo Radley. He's also a mockingbird. He's innocent. He only does good. Giving gifts and taking care of the kids and so on. But this all shows her maturity. Feeling bad about doing that, not being scared anymore. So now we're seeing really Scout's maturity. In the courthouse sequence, it was more about Jem growing up. So Jem was more aware of the kind of adult world. Now we have Scout being aware of some things. So she's growing up, and we've got another school scene now coming in a higher grade. And I just want to point out something about this Miss Gates, okay? And Miss Gates starts talking about Hitler, and the context is World War II coming up now. And we obviously have racism and discrimination against Jewish people. Not just Jewish people. The Nazis were against a lot of different people, but they were the main kind of target with Jewish people. And Ms. Gates is comparing Germany to the USA and comparing Hitler and their government system versus the USA, which is democracy. So democracy is supposed to, include equality, equal rights. But does it really? All right. She printed democracy in large letters. Okay, well, sorry, back up here for a moment. I mean, how can Hitler just put a lot of folks in a pen like that? Looks like the government would stop him, said the owner of the hand. Hitler is the government, said Miss Gates, and seizing an opportunity to make education dynamic, she went to the blackboard. She printed democracy in large letters. Democracy, she said. Does anybody have a definition? Us, somebody said. I raised my hand, remembering an old campaign slogan Atticus had once told me about. What do you think it means, Jean Louise? Equal rights for all, special privileges for none, I quoted. Very good, Jean Louise, very good, Miss Gates smiled. In front of democracy, she printed, We are a... Now, class, say it all together. We are a democracy. We said it. Then Miss Gates said, That's the difference between America and Germany. We are a democracy, and Germany is a dictatorship. Dictatorship, she said. Over here, we don't believe in persecuting anybody. Persecution comes from people who are prejudiced. Prejudice, she enunciated carefully. There are no better people in the world than the Jews, and why Hitler doesn't think so is a mystery to me. So, Miss Gates seems to have a pretty big blind spot, right? That's a very wavy underlining. Over here, we don't believe in persecuting anybody. Is that true? Persecution comes from people who are prejudiced. Well, isn't there prejudice in their society? What's going on here, right? So we have some hypocrisy with Mrs. Gates going on here. Now that's connected at the end, and we get a little bit of a portrait of Jem and how he's been affected by the court case result. Okay, so they're talking about Miss Gates, how they hate Hitler, and Scout's sort of starting to reason about things, to question. Okay, and her questions are good. She hates Hitler a lot. What's wrong with that? Well, she went on today about how bad it was, him treating the Jews like that. Jem, it's not right to persecute anybody, Is it? I mean, have mean thoughts about anybody? Even? Is it? Gracious no, Scout, what's eating you? Well, coming out of the courthouse that night, Miss Gates she was going down the steps in front of us. You must not have seen her. She was talking with Miss Stephanie Crawford. I heard her say it's time somebody taught them a lesson. They were getting way above themselves. And the next thing they think they can do is marry us. Jem, how can you hate Hitler so bad and turn around and be ugly about folks at home? Okay, who's she talking about? Okay, this is Miss Gates' hypocrisy. Oops. That one got a bit out of control on me for some reason. My brain is running ahead. About blacks and prejudice. So she's judging Hitler's racism and then doing the very same action as a Hitler here. And Scout detects that this is hypocrisy. That's not fair. And she's pointing this out to Jem. Jem was suddenly furious. He leapt off the bed, grabbed me by the collar, and shook me. I never want to hear about that courthouse again, ever, ever. You hear me? You hear me? Don't you ever say one word about it again. You hear? Now go on. I was too surprised to cry. I crept from Jem's room and shut the door softly, lest undue noise set him off again. Suddenly tired, I wanted Atticus. He was in the living room, and I went to him and tried to get in his lap. Atticus smiled. You're getting so big now, I'll just have to hold a part of you. He held me close. Scout, he said softly, don't let Jem get you down. He's having a rough time these days. I heard you back there. Atticus said Jem was trying hard to forget something, but what he was really doing was storing it away for a while until enough time had passed. Then he would be able to think about it and sort things out. When he was able to think about it, Jem would be himself again. Okay, so why does Jem freak out here? Okay, he is disturbed, okay, by the reality of injustice in the society. So injustice, unfairness, brokenness, all of that, he's realizing, you know, the world is not a simple place. He's gone beyond his childish ideas of the world. All right, so that's just a little touchdown in chapter 26. In chapter 27, we get another incident with Tom Robinson's wife, Helen, who's given a job. And I'm just going to touch on this section here very quickly in a couple minutes, page 132 in this document. And I just want to note it because this whole sequence involves some important foreshadowing. And I'll just summarize. So Helen gets a job from Mr. Link Dees, who had given a job to Tom Robinson before, and she's now going to be his cook. But as she tries to walk by the road that's near the Ewell's house, okay, she wants to walk by there to her new job. The Ewells come out and they throw stuff at her. Okay, so she has a problem. She has to walk all the way around and go another way to try to get to work. So Link Dees comes and yells at Bob Ewell, say, don't bother my cook. And the next time she goes, Bob Ewell starts following behind her, saying bad stuff and threatening her. And then Link Dees says, don't mess with her again or I'll send you to jail.